You reach a point in life where everything feels heavier than it should, where even small tasks seem to demand more energy than you think you have. And in those moments, it becomes easy to believe that you are stuck, that change is far away, and that your circumstances define your limits. But the truth is far different from that belief, because what you're experiencing is not a permanent condition, but a mental state shaped by repeated thoughts, habits, and internal dialogue that have been reinforced over time. And if those thoughts were learned, they can also be unlearned and replaced with something stronger, clearer, and more empowering. And this is where the teachings inspired by Dr. Joseph Murphy become especially powerful, because he emphasized that the subconscious mind accepts what you repeatedly think and feel as reality, regardless of whether it is helping you or holding you back. And when you begin to understand this principle, you start to realize that you're present. Situation is not a final verdict, but a reflection of your internal programming, which means that by changing the way you think, speak, and visualize your life, you can begin to shift the direction of your entire experience, even if it does not happen instantly, because transformation is often gradual, building quietly beneath the surface before it becomes visible in your external world. And this is exactly why the fighter inside you has never disappeared. It has only been buried under doubt. Fear, past failures, and the opinions of others that you may have unconsciously accepted as truth. But none of those things have the authority to define who you are or what you are capable of becoming. And right now, in this very moment, you have the ability to choose a different internal narrative, one that is aligned with strength rather than weakness, possibility rather than limitation, and action rather than hesitation. And when you begin to consistently feed your mind with thoughts of confidence, discipline, and purpose, your subconscious starts to reorganize itself around those inputs, gradually influencing your behavior, your decisions, and ultimately your results. And that is why even small shifts in thinking can lead to massive changes over time, because every great transformation begins internally before it is ever seen externally. And the fighter within you is not something you need to create. It is something you need to awaken by removing the mental barriers that have kept it asleep. And as you listen to this message, understand that you are not being asked to become someone else. You're being reminded of who you already are beneath fear, beneath doubt, and beneath every limitation you have accepted until now. And if you hold on to this awareness and begin to act in alignment, but awakening that inner fighter is not only about realizing your potential. It is about choosing to act differently even when your current emotions are telling you to stay the same. Because real change never waits for perfect motivation or ideal conditions. It begins in the middle of discomfort, in the moments where you feel uncertain yet decide to move forward anyway. And this is where most people hesitate, because the mind naturally resists change and tries to pull you back into familiar patterns, even if those patterns are limiting. But if you study the principles associated with Dr. Joseph Murphy, you begin to understand that your subconscious mind does not distinguish between what is vividly imagined and what is physically experienced, which means every time you repeatedly think about failure, weakness, or fear, you are reinforcing those states within yourself. But the same rule applies in the opposite direction as well, because when you deliberately focus on strength, success, confidence, and clarity, you begin to recondition your inner world in a way that slowly transforms your outer reality. And this is not magic or instant transformation. It is psychological alignment, a gradual rewiring of perception and behavior that takes place through repetition, belief, and emotional intensity. And as you continue this process, you start to notice subtle changes in how you respond to challenges. Instead of backing away, you pause and assess instead of doubting yourself. Immediately, you begin to question the doubt itself. And instead of assuming failure, you begin to consider possibility. And this shift may seem small at first, but it is extremely powerful because it changes the direction of your decisions, and your decisions ultimately shape the life you experience. And the fighter inside you grows stronger each time you choose action over avoidance. Each time you replace negative self-talk with constructive thought, and each time you refuse to let temporary emotion dictate long-term outcomes. Because discipline is not the absence of fear, but the decision to move forward despite it. And when you combine discipline with belief in your inner capacity, something begins to shift at a deeper level within your identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who is trying to become strong and start recognizing yourself as someone who is already developing strength through practice, persistence, and awareness. And this recognition is crucial because identity shapes behavior more than motivation ever will. And once your identity changes, your habits begin to align with it naturally. And even on days when you feel low or uncertain, they're the part of you that remembers who you are becoming. And that memory alone can be enough to keep you moving forward step by step, even when progress feels slow or invisible. Because transformation is not always loud or dramatic. Sometimes it is quiet and internal, like a seed. But as this transformation continues, you begin to realize that the real battle was never outside of you, but always within the boundaries of your own mind, where beliefs are formed, reinforced, and eventually expressed as your lived reality. And this is exactly why awareness becomes your greatest weapon, because once you see how your thoughts influence your emotions, and your emotions influence your actions, you can no longer pretend that you are powerless, since you are actively participating in the creation of your experience, moment by moment, thought by thought. And Dr. Joseph Murphy emphasized the same truth when he explained that the subconscious mind accepts what you impress upon it repeatedly, without argument or resistance, meaning that whatever you consistently accept as true eventually becomes your lived reality, whether it serves you or not. And when you finally take responsibility for this internal process, you stop blaming external circumstances and start refining your inner dialogue, your mental imagery, and your emotional responses, which is where true empowerment begins. Because power is not found in controlling everything around you, but in mastering what happens inside you. And as you practice this mastery, you start to notice that challenges no longer break you as easily, setbacks no longer define you as deeply, and fear no longer controls you as strongly. Because your identity is slowly shifting from someone who reacts to life into someone who directs it. And this shift is reinforced every time you choose belief over doubt, clarity over confusion, and action over hesitation. And although the process may feel gradual, it is continuously reshaping your mental foundation, building a stronger internal structure that supports new levels of confidence, discipline, and emotional stability. And as this foundation strengthens, you begin to operate differently in the world, no longer shrinking in the presence of difficulty, but instead standing firm, in the awareness that your thoughts are shaping your future continuously, and that every moment is an opportunity to redirect your mind towards strength and possibility. And as you continue strengthening this inner discipline, you will notice that your responses become more intentional rather than reactive, allowing you to pause before emotional patterns take control. And in that pause lies your freedom, because it is an awareness that you reclaim your power to choose, to think differently, to imagine differently, and to act differently. And over time, this conscious repetition builds a new internal identity that aligns with strength, purpose, and resilience. And when you reach this level of awareness, you no longer seek motivation from outside sources, because it becomes internally generated through belief and understanding that you are capable of shaping your reality through consistent mental direction and emotional alignment with the principles that govern your subconscious mind. And this realization ultimately leads you to a place where you act not from fear, but from conviction, and where the fighter within you is no longer dormant, but fully active in every decision you make, moving forward with certainty.